Okay. So, hi everyone, welcome to the IRMAN Talks today. And we are going to have a very special interaction today. IRMAN Talks is an initiative that has been started by us IRMANs for the IRMANs about 3 years back. And up till now, we've had more than 50 plus sessions with IRMANs to understand what IRMANs are doing, what do they think, how do they act and behave, and how IRMA has shaped up their lives. So it is going to be a very interesting discussion today because we have somebody from the veteran age uh, who's going to talk to us today about his journey and what all he has learned from life and IRMA at large. But my role is to introduce to you somebody who's going to be talking to our speaker today, and that is Krishnan. Krishnan is from the third batch, Krishnan, right?
Fifth batch.
Fifth batch, okay. Fifth batch of IRMA. Oh, yes, fifth batch is very special, and we will talk about it, why it is so special. Meher knows it, why it is so special. And Krishnan is a senior professional with about more than 3 decades of experience across development and private sectors both. And he has led major brands, large scale health initiatives funded by global foundations. And his expertise spans sales, marketing, project management across the world. And he is currently the managing trustee of an NGO in Chennai, which is called Hand in Hand India. So I hand over the baton to Krishnan now. Krishnan, please help us run through this session and introduce our speaker to us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ruchi. Thanks for the introduction. Good evening, all. It's nice to be here and to have this, I think, hopefully, a very interesting discussion with Gadekar on the area of social audit and governance. Of course, Gadekar is my classmate from the 84-86 batch, and we know each other naturally, if you do a small calculation, for about 41 years by now. So is very I know though Gadekar has worked. So I'll briefly introduce Gadekar to the audience before we delve into the topic. Gadekar has worked both in private sector and public sector, but I think more importantly, knowing him, as well as I do, that his heart really lies in development. His heart really lies in, other two at the grassroots level. He's stayed in Ambikapur in Chhattisgarh. He's currently in Jaipur and Orissa. So I think he's done a lot of stuff, at the grassroots level, which is pretty amazing. So, he's a senior fellow currently of community development and strategic expansion at the MS Swaminathan Research Center, Jaipur, with nearly 4 decades of experience across corporate, government, academic, cooperative, and international development sectors. He's held notable leadership positions, including head of CSR at Sterlite Technologies and director of the Social Audit Unit, about which we'll be speaking in today's conversation. Government of Chhattisgarh, overseeing 400 staff and social audits in 10,000 villages under NREGA. His expertise spans CSR, rural development, social audits, sustainability, and project management. And he also has a certification in sustainability assurance from the Confederation of Indian Industries, CII. Apart from that, I think he is also very interested in Hindustani music, and I think he used to play tabla pretty well. I think till a injury to his hand kept him from pursuing the profession. And I think he's also an avid cyclist. Am I right, Gadekar? I think you are an avid cyclist. His children are also into fitness, and they are a fitness at a very international level.
Yes.
So that's a very interesting personality Gadekar is. So hi Gadekar, and good to have you on today's program. So I will sort of delve straight in to the today's conversation. See, I have also been in development for the last 15 years, but frankly speaking, I have not had much exposure to the subject of social audit. And so I'm also, this is the first time actually I'm talking seriously to someone who is deeply involved in social audit as Gadekar is. Therefore, my first question, and I'll jump straight into it, is Gadekar, could you enlighten us as to what exactly is social audit? What is its genesis? How did it come about? Could you explain that to us, please?
Yeah, so social audit is a process that ensures accountability of projects, programs, laws, and policies. Okay, so at this point, it would be good to understand the difference between an audit and a social audit. As we all know, audits are performed by financial experts, and they sit in offices and go through documents. So an audit is performed by verifying documents. A social audit, on the other hand, is performed on site by people. Okay, so there is a financial aspect to it, and there is a non-financial, meaning looking at the physical structures, for instance, that have been created, looking at their utility, at their effectiveness. So, and it is conducted by people, so therefore it is called social audit. So that is a brief introduction to social audit. Social audit is actually one of the methods of ensuring social accountability, which is a broader topic, broader subject. Social audit started in India at the instance of the civil society, and it is very closely linked to NREGA, what we call MG NREGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. And earlier, when NREGA works were being carried out, money would be carried in sacks, and then they were paid to the laborers who were working. And as one can imagine, that led to a lot of problems. People who did work on the site did not get paid. People who did not work got paid. And people did not get paid, commensurate with the amount of days of labor they had put in. So all these problems were there, and these issues were raised. This primarily started off in Rajasthan, and the institution which pushed for social audits is MKSS, Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sangathan, with which Aruna Roy and Nikhil Dey, these are the people who are linked with that. So that is the genesis of social audit in India. You can say it began in the 90s, and the NREGA Act was passed in 2005. And as part of NREGA, Section 17 of NREGA mandates conduct of social audits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say section whatever of NREGA mandates social audit, so is social audit from a government perspective is restricted to only one particular program of NREGA, or does it extend to all the other government programs also? I mean, from what I'm hearing you say, it is compulsory as far as NREGA is concerned. Is it equally compulsory for all the other government programs to have a social audit, inbuilt into the design?
So as I said, social audit began with NREGA, and it is mandated in NREGA. So therefore, the linkage between social audit and NREGA is very strong. But when the utility and of social audits were seen over a period of time, then slowly government started bringing in more schemes under the ambit of social audit. It began with Swachh Bharat Mission, PMAY, Pradhan Mantri Awas, and the pension program. So different states are at different levels, but NREGA social audits are mandatory. Others are sort of work in progress.
Okay. So when you first explained about what social audit was all about, you also mentioned that it's also has a financial component. Did I hear you right? Or is it primarily to do with only the social aspect and not the financial aspect? And if there is a financial aspect, I mean, what is the proportion you would say, if
it
at all one
covers
can
both.
talk about proportion? So it's 50-50, or is it mainly social, financial? what is the where does the preponderance of the emphasis lie, on the social aspect or on the financial aspect, or the equal?
So I can't give you a number like that. Let me explain with an example so that will make it clearer. Suppose a road has been constructed as part of Narega. It can be a kacha road or it can be a pakka road. And the money is sanctioned for 1 kilometer road. Okay. And the money is spent and the road is constructed. The social audit unit goes to conduct social audit. It measures the length of the road, the length, the width, the depth. And they see that while money was spent for a 1 kilometer road, on measuring the length, they find it to be 800 meters. Okay. So you have got bang for the buck for 800. So 200 meters, the money for 200 meters is not accounted for. So that is what it will uncover. So people are trained to conduct social audits, and actually social audits give self-confidence to people in villages, because they are encouraged to ask questions. One of the very primary slogans that we use when we conduct social audits, it goes like this: Hamara paisa, hamara hisab. Because it is our money, it is our right to question.
Okay. That's interesting, because I was thinking that social audit just confines itself just to the social sphere. So what you're saying is that there is a financial component also to that.
Yes.
Okay. So the other follow-up question to that is, so how exactly do you conduct social audit? So what are the steps? What are the process? Behind the conduct of a social audit program in a particular area, geography, maybe Gram Panchayat, at whatever level that you conduct the program in?
So social audit is conducted. It is a 3-step process. In the first step, a team of people goes to the village and it stays for 5-6 days in the village. And it will do various activities. It will go door to door to the beneficiaries. It will do physical verification of assets. It will examine the passbooks of the beneficiaries, whether money has been credited. It will have meetings with people. And at the end of the 5 days, they will read some findings, what are the works that have been carried out, what can be accounted for, have people received payment, all of that. Then they prepare a report based on that. And then on the 6th day, a Gram Sabha is organized. Now, this is a special Gram Sabha. The only agenda is social audit. And this Gram Sabha is not chaired by the Sarpanch. Those people who participate in the Gram Sabha, they decide that so-and-so person, Mr. Ram or Mrs. Sita or somebody will chair, So they are from the common people, they chair the meeting. And the social audit team reads out the findings that, when we measured the road, money had been spent for this less, but we found it to be so much. The pond had been dug and so many cubic meters were shown as being excavated. But when we measured and looked at the volume of earth, we found this. Some house has been constructed, but the flooring has not done and the plastering is not done. Many of these small inconsistencies are brought out, and they are read before the meeting. Now, the general impression is that Gram Sabhas do not take place and very few people attend. But let me tell you, social audit Gram Sabhas are very well attended, because over a period of 5 days, people are mobilized. A rally is carried out in the village. Wall writings the muster rolls are written on the walls of the village, and slogans, Hamara paisa, hamara hisab, and other slogans like Na Lok Sabha, Na Vidhan Sabha, Sabse Bada Gram Sabha. All these kinds of, so it charges up the environment, And prominently it is displayed, Gram Sabha will be held in Lakshmanpur in your village at such and such a time, at such and such a place. Please join. So then people come in large numbers, I have seen. And this Gram Sabha goes on for a fairly long time, 3 hours, 4 hours. And sometimes there are heated discussions because, chapter and verse it is read out. And then the body has to take a decision now, for point number 1 for the road, what is to be done. So then they will say, okay, this has to be done. For point number 2, for the pond, this is what was found, what is to be done. So they will say something. So all that is recorded. That is the first step of the social audit.
So in this,
second,
the people are community, then the officials, and the social auditor. These three, all the three are involved in this process.
Yes. So the villagers are involved. On the one side is the social audit team, and people from government are invited. It can be the sarpanch, it can be the sachiv, it can be the GRS, Gram Rozgar Sahayak. So all the lower level functionary, they are all invited. Line departments, so they are all invited. So after this is complete, social audit goes to the next level, which happens at a cluster level. So a group of 4 to 5 villages may be constituted. You can consider it to be a cluster. And there the public hearing takes place. Now, what is a public hearing? A public hearing is a hearing. It's like a quasi-judicial process, which is chaired by a person not below the rank of an SDM, sub-divisional magistrate, because you cannot have a very low level official. It's a very important process. So the law says that an official not below the rank of SDM has to preside. On the one side is the social audit team who presents their findings of social audit and what the Gram Sabha has recommended. So that is on one side. On the other side are the people who have carried out the works. Whoever has constructed the road or dug the pond and all of that. So then the presiding officer will read the report and ask the people who have constructed it, what is your view? What do you have to say? They're saying that only 800 meters of road was found. What do you have to say? So they give their side of the story, they give their defense, at the end of which the person presiding has to pass a judgment. So has to put a decision. It can be recover the money, it can be suspend an official, it can be we will fine this person, it can be jane do, chhod do. Let us forgive him, this time. We warn you and please do not repeat. It can be whatever. So that is the second stage. By this time, by the second stage, the role of the social audit team or the unit is over. These reports, the report of the public hearing, which is in Hindi, it's called Jan Sunwai, it then goes to government in Mantralaya. And they have to take action, because if it says recover money, so who can recover money? Only government can recover money from, if it's a government employee, then there is a separate procedure. If it's an elected representative, there is a separate procedure. So only government can do it. So the reports go to the government, Mantralaya. And that is when closure takes place. And very interestingly, these reports are often not acted upon. But yeah, that is in brief the process of social audit.
So interesting. So you said that at the second level, virtually a judgment is given, right? In terms of recover the money or whatever, which is a little punitive in nature, right? So and since social audits, like you said, is mandated as law, right? Especially when NREGA is concerned. Therefore, do these judgments carry the weight of judgment from the court? Meaning, do they have the same kind of power as a court judgment that they have to be implemented? And if so, and I don't know whether this is the ambit of what I'm asking you is within the scope of today's discussion. But since So, do these parties have a way of appealing against the judgment, if at all? Because let's say recovering money is not really a easy process, especially when the work has been completed and so on. So, what is the weight of this judgment? If the point is, if it doesn't carry any teeth, then obviously, then the whole thing becomes a little bit of a, okay, I say something, but it is not really acted upon. So, what is the weight of this judgment?
So the weight is the
I think is an issue with Gadekar's link.
Yes, maybe he's facing some internet issues. Okay, so by the time he's coming, Krishnan, I have a question. Maybe you can try to attempt to answer.
I was a
In
moderator, yeah. I
yeah,
cannot. Don't put me on the mat.
yeah, but it's going to be it's a very I think it's a logical question. So I thought you are working in the sector. Uh, let's say somebody is doing such audits, it would be very natural to make enemies. Then how does
Yeah, that is part of my question too. The sense that if the findings are supposed to be, I mean, findings are against the government or the findings against officials, as it might well be in a few cases, then how does how does the overall system permit the conduct of social audit? In this case, the officials over there, the government would know that there is something fishy that's going on, and that was my follow-up question to this. I mean, how do they actually permit? So, Gadekar is to come back to answer the question.
right, absolutely, absolutely. So let's plan one or two more questions by the time he comes back. Would anybody else have any follow-up questions up till now, so that we can include them in the Q&A? We are plotting against him while he's not here.
We can also probably assume that that's one of the reasons he shifts base very often.
He's disappeared at a very convenient time, I should say.
Right. He's back.
Yeah,
He's
Gadekar.
back.
Okay, I think he's having. You're on mute, Gadekar.
so where was I when the connection went off?
Okay, will you listen to my question, or you could not listen to my question?
No, I could listen to your question. I was
Okay, you
speaking
didn't answer it. You didn't when you started answering, your connection broke off. Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, please repeat the question.
No,
because
my only question was that you said in the second stage there is a judgment that's handed down, okay, by saying that this road has not been completed, money has to be returned in a few cases, okay, where they find that the work has not been complied with the work execution hasn't complied with whatever the specs of the work was. Therefore, there is a certain punitive action that
Yes.
that particular gathering has levied upon the contractor or levied upon those who are actually doing that, who have done that work. So my question was that what is the weight of the judgment? Does it have the same weight as I heard you say that social audit is mandated in law, right? Mandated in law by the Act of Parliament. Therefore, any judgment given as a process of social audit should have the weight of a court ruling. So does it have, and are people allowed to appeal against it? So what is the weight of that judgment that's given in case it's punitive?
So so I will not actually use the word a judgment, but it's the decision at the public hearing. It's a decision at the public hearing, because after all, it is not a court which is doing it. So it can be punitive, but the way I look at it is that social audits further transparency and accountability, and therefore they need to be pushed by by governments. But what happens is translating them is quite tough on part of the government. They have to take action against their employees, and employees are unionized. If they have to take action against sarpanches, then there is a union of the sarpanches, and it matter may go to the MLA and the MP. So it is not very easy. So often the decisions of the public hearing are on paper, and these papers are filed, so no action is taken. If the officer in Mantralaya is conscientious, then he or she will pursue it, because Mantralaya has to actually submit an action taken report, and many states were lagging behind it, and therefore Government of India introduced an MIS saying that every issue that has been raised, has been flagged, has to be complied with. So government was trying to increasingly, close the loop, but the pressures from those who are flouting the rules and indulging in corruption, and they are in large numbers, and they are part of government, and they are with the elected representatives, it is not so easy. So this is in brief the three-stage process of social audits.
Okay. That's interesting. So while you were actually off air, for a few minutes, we sort of thought that we'll gather a few questions. So one of the questions that Richie came up with, and she asked me, and I was not qualified to answer that question. And actually, I also had the same question: is that so in these cases where the public hearings, are likely to go against the implementers of this project, and in a few cases it might well go against it, whether the punitive action is later on backed up by actually the judgment of whatever the submission of the grams of the hearing is actually backed up by Mantralaya later on, is a different matter. Okay, we will come to that a little later. But when the findings are likely to go against the implementer, the contractor, or whosoever it is, and it's a nexus, he's just not doing it alone. So do they actually allow the entire process of social audits to happen in the first place? Because that would give a bad name to the particular person in the community, in the local area and all that, even if later on there's no follow-up subsequently, but people would know that so and so did not implement that particular project well. Therefore, is there a challenge to the conduct of social audit itself in terms of from the government or from the powers that be in that particular area? That was the question.
Yeah, very, very interesting question. Let me share a few examples or experiences that I have had. Social audits, when they happen in villages, normally are fairly peaceful processes. Sometimes the atmosphere does get charged, and tempers are raised. I have seen instances when abuses are heard, gali galoch bhi ho jata hai. And I have seen social audits where people come rushing, when the meeting is being done and these things are being read out, people come rushing in and they start protesting. So in one such instance, I remember there were women staff with me, and I started fearing for their safety. So then I decided to abandon the meeting and go back. And I reported it to the CEO of the Jilla Panchayat that I could not complete the meeting because these people made it very difficult. It could have become a law and order question. The other thing is that some Gram Panchayats are notorious, because they have a record. They do not allow these kinds of things, or there are fears that violence or something, may happen. So once or twice I have attended, and we request the police, and the police is in attendance. They stand outside. They do not interfere, and then all these things happen. Sometimes I have seen that there is deep enmity in the village. There are two factions and they are at loggerheads. They have their internal issues. And when these things these things spark the enmity, and then you can see, all the enmity coming out and all that. So I have physically stood between people, trying to separate them and all that. So there are all kinds of social audits. Some, most are peaceful, but many of them abuses are used, threats are used, and social auditors themselves are subject to threats and also to bribes, because after all, social auditors themselves are human beings. So
Of course.
there is no guarantee that they cannot be bribed and corrupted. Okay, I'll give you money, please give a good report and show that there is no variance or no deviation. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, so it's a little bit of paradox, right? So when there's a lot of involvement from the community, and there is a lot of zealous participation, then it can tend to become unruly, which can actually derail the process itself. But the positive side of that is the fact that the people are so passionately involved, and if they see something that's not up to the liking, then they are actually expressing their feeling. So that's a good side of it, right? So it's got both sides to that kind of a situation. Okay, so moving on, the other question that I had was, I mean, since you mentioned about NREGA and the very close link between social audit and NREGA and all that, so my question is from a development perspective, and there's something that I have been doing, a few years in my career also as well. Since I know social audit is done over 5 days, you just described the entire process. So is there any way even that you guys give some kind of a not a detailed impact assessment of that particular program, but at least an early offshoot, that is what are people saying about this particular program? Like for NREGA, the typical the counter to NREGA is that by giving people the wages at whatever 150 200 rupees, then you're actually taking laborers away from the farm work. Okay, that's been often one oft heard complaint against NREGA. People don't come for agricultural labor because they have to work hard over there from morning till evening doing the harvest or tilling or whatever. Whereas if you go to NREGA, and sit there for about and do some work, you paid, and the money comes into your bank account. Therefore, I'm not saying you should do a very deep research or impact assessment, but do these sort of things form at least part of your report, some kind of an impact, both positive and negative, of the schemes?
The social audit reports do, describe, how whatever projects are implemented, whether it is a road, whether it is a pond that is excavated, whether it is a house that is constructed, what was found, it is a description of that, and whether it matches with the plan, so that is it. But there is no time here to do impact assessments, because please remember the scale. We were doing it for 10,000 gram panchayats, which has to be done within a year, and we have so many festivals and people are busy with agriculture and all these kinds of things. So that is quite a task. So there is no time. I think this task can be best done by academicians or by institutions like NIRD, National Institute of Rural Development at Hyderabad, which has a very active center for social audit. So I suppose they have done studies, but after 2000, I have not been in touch with social audit after I stepped down.
Okay. Okay. The other aspect is that social audit is the actually seeing democracy at work at the grassroots, right? I mean, the way that you described it is real a democratic process, and therefore, can you give us some examples on as to what is the kind of link between social audit and the kind of things you're talking about in terms of everything should be done as per the work order and so on. So there's a governance element, I presume, that is part of the social audit process. So what is the link between social audit and governance? How strong is that link? Does it actually serve to improve the governance at the grassroots, at the village level?
Okay. See, the three pillars of social audit are transparency, because whatever work is being done or whatever activities or whatever money is being spent should be known by everyone, because it is people's money. As I shared the slogan, "Hamara paisa, hamara hisab," because it is our money, we have a right to have account. We have a right to ask you questions so that you account for it. So transparency is very important. Accountability, whether the money is used in the best form. So whether it is used effectively, whether it is used efficiently, what is the utility? I have seen, ponds dug right outside in the jungle, and then we ask them, why did you do these things? So actually, going back, the right to decide the projects vests with the Gram Sabha, with the people in the village. What actually happens is the Sarpanch and the Sachiv, the secretary of the Gram Panchayat, they sit behind closed doors and decide what are the things we should be doing, which involve a lot of money, which involve construction, so that you can have kickbacks. You use the term contractor. Under Narega, no contractor is allowed. That's the law. But by aberration, it can come in. But the people are supposed to decide the projects that have to be done in the village. But this is not being done, and the system is subverted, and these two people, the Sarpanch and the Sachiv, or the Sarpanch and the Gram Rozgar Sahayak, the Sachiv and the Gram Rozgar Sahayak, any permutation combination, they decide behind closed doors, we want to do this. And then those things are done, and the people's needs are left aside. Let me give you an example. I was, because I had to understand the whole process of social audit. See, you must remember, before I took on this role, I did not have much exposure to social audit. So I used to be a part of the team when they were doing, to see the processes, to understand social audit, and also to supervise my team. So we were doing this social audit in a village. It was peak of summer, and people told me a mini stadium has been constructed. Let us go and see it. So we went on the outskirts of the village, and a mini stadium had been constructed. And I saw that the mini stadium was vandalized. The tanks on top had been thrown down. The fixtures in the bathrooms and toilets were smashed up. And then I came back to the village. It was peak of summer, and a tanker was coming to deliver water. And the women were scrambling, because the task of filling water is with women. And they were all, fighting to fill water. And I asked, what is the problem? They said, if this tanker came twice a day, it will be so much more beneficial for us. We do not have sufficient utensils or storage for it to last. And that is when I realized that the village would have wanted something to do with water. And because maybe the government said, okay, let us promote sports, and sports stadium was done. Maybe an official in Mantralaya decided, we want to promote sports in Chhattisgarh. So then people were so angry, they had vandalized it. So you can see the needs of people are something, and something else is being provided, and therefore the people are venting their anger.
Okay. So just coming to you personally, Gadekar. So, how did you decide to get into this area of social audit? What drew you into this? And it's not something that I think in our batch, maybe you were the only social auditor, maybe, I don't know. So what exactly, how did you stumble or consciously work your way towards being a social auditor? What is the path? How did you do that?
So yes, I also was looking at profiles of other alumni, and I do not see any other alumnus who has been the director of social audit of a state government. So that aside, it was in 2016 I saw this ad which says, wanted director social audit. And some qualifications were mentioned: postgraduate, this, that, experience of working with NGOs, and we will pay airfare to come to Raipur. So I said, come on, Meher, I said to myself, this is a chance to visit Raipur. So I applied, and then I forgot about it. And then I was invited for an interview, and I went for the interview. And at that time, I did not know sufficiently about social audits and the importance and what this post entails. So when I was interacting with the fellow candidates who had come, one had come from Delhi, 2, 3 were from Chhattisgarh. They knew much more about social audit and the importance of social audit than I did. I was waiting with them and conversing with them, and I realized I know very little. And then one of them said, do you know who is going to conduct the interview? I said, no. So he said, it's going to be the chief secretary. So I said, I jumped up a couple of notches, and we were saying, what could be the size of the social audit team? So I said, maybe 12 or 15 people. So this person from Delhi said, there are definitely more than 300, maybe 350 people. Then I realized this is a very serious matter. So the interview was indeed conducted by, presided over by the chief secretary and conducted by the additional chief secretary, Panchayat and Rural Development. And despite there being local candidates and a woman candidate, I was picked, So that is how my journey to social audit, my entry to social audit began. And when I decided to accept the post, it was a very steep learning curve for me, Krishnan, because my staff knew more about social audits than I did. My subordinates knew more about it. And therefore, I had to learn very quickly. And I did it. Fortunately, I was, to give you an analogy, I was entrusted with a chariot pulled by 5 horses, 5 stallions were pulling the chariot. And I was said, okay, now you climb on and it's all yours. I had never even ridden a horse, So it was quite a ride. And I had to learn, on the move. I spent time in villages. I spent a lot of time listening to my colleagues and my subordinates, reading up documents, interacting with fellow directors of social audit from other states who were doing better work, Andhra Pradesh had a very superb director, a lady named Soumya Kidambi. Jharkhand had a wonderful director named Gurjeet Singh. So I would interact with them. We would often meet in NIRD Hyderabad, and we would exchange notes. So that is how I began into social audit.
Okay. Good, very interesting. I mean, kudos to you again, Gadekar, seriously, in terms of... and how long have you been, were you a social auditor? 4 years, 5 years? In the area
3 years. It was a three-year term. And because I decided to, to abide by the spirit of Narega, to stick by the rules, it became very difficult for the government, because I was reporting to the government and I would say that you are not taking action. Week after week, I would go to Mantralaya. I had a pass for Mantralaya, and I would say that action is required. And my boss would ask, why is action required? And I would tell him that when my team goes for social audit, conducting social audit in this village, the villagers ask, what happened to last year's social audit? Yeah. Where has that audit, where has that reached? And I would, my team would tell the villagers, Prakaran Prakriyadhin hai. The matter is under process. This is bureaucracy is, a very polite bureau. So the villagers would say, please come to us after the matter is, resolved. So I said, how can my team work in villages if you people are not taking action? It is defeating. They are saying, don't come. So then my boss said, oh, then it's a very serious matter. I said, yeah, it's a serious matter. And the state governments also have to answer to Government of India. Sometimes questions on social audit are asked in the Vidhan Sabha. So there are many checks and balances in place for the system to run. But as I said, there are also a lot of compulsions why action is not taken, for very obvious reasons.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So, okay. I know you did share one story about, I think we're coming to almost close to the end of our session, right, Richa? I mean, in terms of another 5-10 minutes, we will wrap up this portion, and then we'll throw open the session to the to the listeners if they have any questions. So I just have a couple of questions more. I mean, you shared one story about the stadium and stuff like that. So do you have any other impactful, interesting stories around social audit? Something that is very pretty interesting for us to listen? Any other impactful stories?
Yes, yes, yes. Government of India decided that they want to involve women in social audits. So they passed a sort of order that all SHG women should be trained to be social auditors, village level social auditors. So then a meeting was held in NIRD, and each state was given a quota. And we had Chhattisgarh got a quota of training 14,000 odd SHG women to be village social auditors. So then I had a meeting with my team. This is a big responsibility that has come to us, and what do we do about it? So how will we do it? So we had to gear ourselves up to it, and we said that, okay, since it has come to us, let us own it up, let us take it onto our shoulders, and let us do a good job. So we developed a good strategy, and we conducted what are called TOTs, train the trainers. We created a cadre of master trainers at SIRD in Raipur. And then the master trainers went to the districts and began training of the SHG women. At the conclusion of this program, we invited the government, the additional chief secretary, for a meeting where the whole process was shared with them. And the additional chief secretary asked some of these women to come on stage and share their experiences. The way these women spoke, the confidence they had, the clarity they had, the additional chief secretary was, swayed, swept off his feet. And he said, Gadekar, your team seems to have done a good job. And I like these women, what they are doing. I suggest that you go to the village and spend time with these villages, with these women, encouraging them in the village. I said, yes, sir. And Chhattisgarh was the first state in India to start this program. Chhattisgarh was the first state in India to complete the program successfully. And NIRD monitors said, who are monitoring this training program all over India, that the quality of our training programs was also very good. So after this session, I forgot about my promise. After 3 months, I remembered this is what I had promised my boss. And before he asked me, I went to the village, found out where they are staying, and I spent a week with them, encouraging them. Now let me tell you the impact. What happened when women get involved in social audit? It is very difficult to use threats. It is very difficult to use abusive language. So the conduct of social audit got more civilized. Tempers could not become frayed, and so a good side of social audit was brought out. And the women, because they were organized as self-help groups, they drew their strength from their solidarity. And they were older in age than the social auditors, who were very young people, 21, 22, and they were not experienced, and they would come from some other village. So the villagers would not take them very seriously. They would brush them off, they would threaten them, they would use abusive language. These women were older in age, they had seen life, they were organized. So social audit, the conduct of social audit improved.
Good. Interesting. So this, I think we've covered a fairly broad spectrum, of areas around social audit. I've got a couple of questions also, which I will come to from people who have been listening. So I'll come to that a little later. So my last question in this segment is, and I think we're coming to the close of the session, is how do you see the future of social audit going forward, Gadekar? Do you see, because mandated by the government is one thing, but actual experience on the ground is another. Support of social audit from various, governments is, I mean, I think governmental backing is very necessary to conduct. From what appears to be, from whatever you're telling me, it's a highly sensitive process. It's not something, it's got all those challenges which you talked about. So in light of all that, how do you see the future of social audit? Will it be robust going forward? Chances of it, tapering off a little bit, or just does it depend on the government of the day? So what exactly, how do you see it?
So the basic law making is done by Government of India and the Parliament. But the implementation of social audits and the implementation of the schemes is left to the states. NREGA is implemented by the state government. In my case, it was government of Chhattisgarh, but all states implement NREGA. And there are so many other schemes that are implemented by the states. So social audits, though they began with NREGA, they were then extended to PMAY, Pradhan Mantri Awas, the housing scheme. Then it was extended to SBM, the Swachh Bharat Mission. Then it was also, so these are both part of the MORD, Ministry of Rural Development. The other department which expressed interest was Welfare Department for pension programs. So they said we should have social audits of pension programs. And for all these, whenever policies had to be drawn up, we would assemble in NIRD and we would have write shops, writing policies and, SOPs, developing SOPs for conduct of social audits of new schemes. The state which took the lead in all of it was Meghalaya. They said we will bring 29 departments of the government under the purview of social audit. So the revolutionary step was taken by this tiny state in the Northeast, and many of the experts in social audit went to Meghalaya to guide them in the whole process, how they should, because here other states were only dealing with a few schemes under MORD, because there is drinking water, there is education, there is health. So 29 departments are there. So a few schemes under one department is what most states were satisfied. They said it's too difficult. It sorts of upsets the apple cart. But Meghalaya took this step, and so it is largely up to the states, and it is also up to the minister who is in charge of rural development. It is up to the bureaucracy, the person who heads the department, the additional chief secretary, how strong support is being given, because pressures come from, there is a backlash also. And when I went on a study trip to Jharkhand, and the bureaucrat very, very clearly shared, how they deal with these pressures when they come to Mantralaya from the union of sarpanches, from the union of employees, how they withstood that, and they said whatever may happen, we are going to take these decisions, and the hell with it, we will face the consequences. So some people choose an easy path. Some bureaucrats, take a bold stance, and so it's an ongoing process. It is still unfolding. I mean, picture abhi baki hai.
Okay. That's, I think, sort of sums it up. So I've got a couple of questions from, we'll start off with one from our own batchmate, Shekhar. He's here in the group, in the audience also as well. So he says, who is funding social audit? If center is providing fund, then why should social audit report to the state government? Can CAG be involved in taking action against the state government ministry? So this is a question from Shekhar.
Okay. So the money for NREGA and most of these schemes comes from Government of India, right? But the implementation is being done by the state government. So therefore, the reports are submitted to the state government, and the state government has to take action. Government of India is not involved in implementing programs. They draw policies, and the acts are passed in Parliament, which is the supreme body.
Right.
As far as CAG goes, the audits of CAG are only conducted on a sample basis. So in the governing body of our social audit unit, we had a representative of CAG, and I used to go and meet them and ask for support, because when you are doing this kind of work, you need support from a lot of people. So, and then we were comparing notes, and he said, oh, but we are doing it on a sample basis, and social audits are done on a census basis, 100%. So that is the essential difference.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Throwing it open.
So
Yeah.
by the time
Yeah.
somebody asks,
Go ahead.
okay, Meher, I want to know if somebody offered you a bribe and how did you handle it?
When I started working, people were observing me very closely. See, the advantage to me was that I had no relative near or distant in Chhattisgarh. So I could, and I came from civil society. So my heart was with the Narega laborer. I said, if people have done corruption, let them face the music. One night when I had gone off to sleep, I received a call. It must have been 10:30, 11, and I normally sleep early. And I picked up the call, and the voice at the other end said, "आप आपकी औकात में रहिए, be within your limits. हमें पता है आपका परिवार पुणे में रहता है." So I said, बहुत रात हो गई है, आप कल मुझे दफ्तर में मिलने आइए. So it was a very clear threat to me, and I reported it to my boss, but nobody came to meet me. What I would have accepted from anyone would have been a cup of tea, and I would have offered a cup of tea. There was nothing more that could have been given or taken.
That bribe to probe in what Richie said, bribe, not threats, bribe.
Yeah, so yeah, unfortunately nobody gave me a bribe, so I can say I have never accepted a bribe, but if it would have been given, we could have, the experiment could have been completed.
Yeah, somebody else had a question, I think. Somebody.
Yeah. May I ask the question? This is
Please.
Roman. You see, I mean, it's very interesting, thrilling, in fact, that I heard from you. Now, this is all that you have faced head-on, micro-level issues. Now that you are no longer involved in that way that you were with Manrega, how do you see the future of Manrega in the near future?
See, Manrega is the largest, program which provides a safety net to unskilled laborers in the world. And it's quite a radical revolutionary program brought in 2005 under the UPA regime, and it was criticized at that time, various things, corruption, not effective, this, that. And then when the next government came in, they continued with it. The difference being that Narega earlier had the focus of preventing distress migration, and when the NDA government came in, they said we will focus on creating assets, durable assets. What is the future of Narega? If that you were to ask me, it's very difficult. People only in Delhi at the policy level can answer, but it has its uses, and there are Narega is being abused. Krishnan mentioned some of those. There are other problems associated with it. Similarly, with social audit has its uses, but social audit has also been abused.
Malika has a question. Malika, please.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the talk and all the field stories. Very enjoyable. Thanks, Gadekar. My question was that you also made a very important observation that the actual needs weren't met. And that's why the vandalization that you spoke about. So I was wondering that along with the impact that you mentioned, did you see social audit being able to respond to this? That the projects themselves could be more need-based?
Yes, very interesting question, and I'll answer in I was having this discussion with a joint secretary in Delhi. There was a review meeting going on, and there is a chapter called preparation of shelf of projects. You know what projects are made under NREGA, and I was telling him that we can make very nice projects by involving people. And this IAS officer was very sincere, and he said, but doesn't that sound very idealistic? So I said, no, I have worked at grassroots for fairly long years and it can be done. So he said, why don't you write a chapter on that? But when I came back to Raipur, I was so busy in my work, I was not able to do it. But the other thing is the current work that I'm doing, I'm working on formulation of GPDPs, Gram Panchayat Development Plans. And there I'm involving the village community to formulate the work that needs to be done for the development of the village through people's participation. So not there, but in some other ways, I am still involved in trying to make democracy more responsive and to the needs of the area of the people.
That's really nice because, yeah, once you've observed that, and bottom-up planning, we've spoken about it for so many years, so many decades, and still not happening. It's just so sad.
I agree.
Thanks,
I agree.
Malika.
But yeah,
Anybody
thanks for
else?
you shouldn't have left.
Can I
after
ask
3
a
years.
question?
After 3 years is when.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm Shivapriya here.
Yes.
Hi, Gadekar. It was nice to listen to this topic of social audit. My question is, yeah, you did say that social audit is primarily with the view to doing a financial assessment and the work done and the response thereof. But does it also does it not take into account the social impact that the particular project has done? Impact is not one of the aspects of an
No,
audit.
no.
No.
The social audit team does not have the bandwidth to look at impacts, and there is so much of pressure. My team, more than 400 people, had to do 10,000 in 10,000 villages. So they were just scrambling to complete it, and impacts are best done by academicians who have sufficient bandwidth, who have enough knowledge of M&D, monitoring and evaluation, log frames, and all of that. And
Okay.
these people were mainly, 12th pass or graduates in vernacular. That their educational qualifications were not very impressive, but
Okay.
they majority did their work sincerely, and of course there were black sheep also who I came to know used to accept money.
Okay. Okay. So impact study is different from the audit and
Yes,
done
yes,
at
it
an
is.
academic
It
level
is.
is what. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So one question from Dilip, right? So do social audits result in issue identification and subsequently identifying issue owners for the audit issues raised? How are the issues actioned on the ground? I mean, we may have addressed this in our conversation, but this is the question from Dilip.
Yeah, I can see where it is coming from. So initially these reports used to go, after the public hearing would go to Mantralaya and they had to act on it. And it was seen across states that action was not taken. And then there was a review meeting in Delhi, and NIRD, people from NIRD were there, social audit directors were there, Government of India representatives, and a very elaborate MIS system was developed, where they said that whenever these issues are flagged, then they have to be, resolved, and only then the flag can be put down. So they did develop a system, which is called the social audit MIS. And there is a very good MIS that has been developed by Ministry of Rural Development, and you can see village wise, how many audits conducted, how many issues were flagged, how many issues resolved, how much money recovered, how many fines levied, how many people suspended, all that is there. But the fact remains that follow-up action is lagging behind. So that persists in spite of all the technological innovations that have been brought in. uh, I mean, other technological innovations were geotagging of assets. All these things have come in, but the people who indulge in corruption are extremely smart.
Okay. I mean, I don't want that to be the last sentence in this in this talk, that people who do corruption are extremely smart. So if there are any other questions, we will take it, or we will go on to the closing statement. Any other questions from anybody? I think, Richie, we are nearing almost the end, right? 1 hour up. Okay, so no more questions then. Thanks really, Gadekar, for this wonderful, before I hand the mic over to, or the floor to Richie, thank you very much. I think from what we have described so far, that it does seem to be a very robust, and very interesting process. And if, frankly speaking, the future of social audit, for example, I mean, if it were to be robust and it were to continue the way that you've described it, and sometimes acrimonious exchanges between various stakeholders, all that I think is part of a vibrant democracy, right? I mean, the people exchanging ideas and in a very passionate way. Then I think perhaps at the ground level, the future of democracy is pretty good. I mean, and in today's world, where there's so much questions raised about democracy, how alive is it, not only across in this world, but even globally. But if these sort of processes at the very grassroots, where to be taking place in a robust way, then I think we can rest easy as far as the grassroots level governance, grassroots level democracy. Despite all the challenges, all of us know practically it's concerned. I think it's a good thing to go forward. Once again, thank you so much, Gadekar, for a wonderful. You really have all our respect in terms of the wonderful time you spent with the grassroots amongst communities working. You put your action where the mouth is. So that way, pretty good. Thank you so much. Thanks for the listeners for listening in. Richie, your floor.
So, Krishnan, thank you so much for taking us through this wonderful chat with Meher. And to all our listeners today, I think I have seen an extremely bright side of Meher. Apart from the professional work that he has done personally, I think he's a wonderful person, and there is so much more to learn from him. So, I would love to see Meher here again and talk about his life learnings too, because he has worked with several organizations where humanity comes into picture, where it is more about the person who is dealing with those communities, and also his other side, wherein he's such an awesome cyclist. He goes around talking and meeting various communities, and he's a health freak. So a lot of all this definitely gives us youngsters. Of course, we are youngsters in front of you, but otherwise we are also growing.
That's the second time you have said that statement. You said you're veterans. Now you're saying you're youngsters compared to us. So noted.
Of course, I mean, that's the liberty we can take here, because where else do you think I will muster the courage to speak all this in a public?
Certainly. I mean, of course.
That's the strength of IRMANs. And interestingly, I have met so many IRMANs who can really claim that IRMA is a different community, because we really care for each other. So hearing stories from Meher was wonderful. And Krishnan, we look forward to hearing stories from you also. Please spare some time for us, and I'm sure we'll reach out to you and we'll schedule a talk with you too.
Maybe I can book my slot in 2027 or something like
Absolutely, but
that.
let us know. I mean, if you want,
Sure.
if somebody wants to do it early, we can squeeze in and we can figure that out. That's not a problem. Because we
Thank you,
had,
Krishnan. Thank you,
yeah.
Richie. Yes. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, Meher, thank you so much. I was just closing only. I wanted to thank the IRMA Alumni Association and the IRMA community uh, for being wonderful, wonderful colleagues and partners. And sharing all your thoughts with all of us. Thank you so much. It was lovely having you with us here.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.